This conference will now be recorded.
Hello and welcome everyone. Thank you for joining today's webinar, Data Optimization for Secondary Raw Materials from WEEE and PV Panels in Europe. My name is Michelle Wagner and I will be your presenter and moderator today. I work in the United Nations University and as a research associate, and my research revolves on waste and material flows, environmental assessment, and circularity of products, especially on e-waste. Alongside my colleague Christine Sperlich from the Technische Universität aus Berlin and Lucia Herrera from WeForum, we are excited to be hosting today's sessions. Christine Sperlich is a senior researcher at the chair of Circular Economy and Recycling Technology, and Lucia Herrera is a technical manager in the WeForum and partner has in the past she has worked on various H2020 projects related to e-waste such as sea-waste, prosume, among others, quit as well, and among others. Before starting with the presentation, I would like to present a few housekeeping items to cover both the presentations and the GoToMeeting platform. First, we would like to ask everyone to mute your microphone by clicking in the microphone button, this one. And in doing so, we will avoid having background noise and ensure high quality of audio and everyone can listen clearly the presenters. In addition, we would like to record this webinar in order to allow participants that couldn't join to have access to it. And today's webinar will be available in the ORAMA webpage, as well as the presentations and materials. In addition, we would love to hear from you during today's presentation. So if you have a question for us, please feel free to send it through the chat box at the bottom of the player, as displayed in here. And we'll be answering the questions at the end of the session. And if we don't get to your question during today's webinar, we will be sure to follow up afterwards. And lastly, we would like to encourage you to share today's webinar with your social network. And you can use the social sharing icons in the ORAMA website to post this webinar directly on Twitter, Facebook, or LinkedIn. I'd like to kick off by providing you an overview of today's webinar. We will be starting with a small introduction of the ORAMA project, followed by the webinar, and finalizing with the discussions and some questions. To talk a little bit about the project, ORAMA focuses on optimizing data collection for primary and secondary raw materials in the member states and addresses specific challenges related to availability, geographical coverage, accessibility, standardization, harmonization, thematic coverage, and among others. The project is built on the results of past and ongoing projects, which you maybe have already heard. For example, in the case of primary raw materials, minerals for you was used, and as well as mica. And in the case of secondary raw materials, prosume and the quid project. These are some projects to mention a few. It is aimed to demonstrate how to create more robust information on primary and secondary stocks and flows datasets in the EU and make information accessible and compatible with the JRC's raw material information system, most known as the RMIS by its abbreviation. But how do we create more robust information of stocks and flows? And how do we provide recommendations on how to improve data quality and data collection processes? So as a first step in the ORAMA project, we made a structured inventory of data collection practices, assess data gaps from the inventory, and as a second step, we prioritize recommendations from this analysis, and we perform some case studies which resulted in best practices and training materials, and we analyze and created strategies for a robust worldwide knowledge base on secondary raw materials in the Yerba mine. And now I will provide you an overview of the current data requirements, reporting practices, and improvement options of secondary raw materials in WEEE that were identified in the ORAMA project. So according to the Global E-Waste Monitor, every year over 10 million tons of WEEE are estimated to reach their end of life. This represents a huge source of secondary raw material when properly treated and recovered. Securing secondary raw material sources and assuring and improving recycling rates can be very challenging when there's a lack of information. And therefore, informed decisions can't be taken. This gap is mainly related to geographical informations, specifically how member states report their information, as there's no standardized methods how they collect and analyze this information. And therefore, when aggregated, this information has a lot of uncertainties, and its data quality as well can be hampered. Accessibility of information can be very challenging as well due to the lack of resources and the confidentiality issues. So these are some of the main issues that we have found. And but why is it important to have this type of information? In order to work towards circular material loops from we in the future, we need better data to understand the demand of resources we're using. For example, how fast are we extracting resources? Overall knowledge on the quantity of resources in order to make informed decisions. It is important to have this type of information. There we can see that there is a lot of increased demand of products and changing technologies, and therefore the potential of shortcoming of materials is very important to know. Realistic collection and recycling targets as well. We can help, as I mentioned before, policymakers make the informed decisions and improve collection and recycling volumes. But who benefits from the UrbanMine information and at what stage? Among these actors that we identified are manufacturers, the industry that uses CRMs and raw materials, recyclers, pre-processors, manufacturers, producers, compliance schemes, and policymakers, member states, European Commission, Eurostat. We have analyzed everything, and but it is important to know what are the needs of the information versus the legislation. As we all know, put on the market information is generally available on an annual basis for EU member states due to the reporting obligations of the WEEE directive, either by the Ministry of Environment or environmental agencies through the EDAMIS portal. These being the result of Article 16 from the WEEE directive. But from 2002, the directive had asked member states to report per collection category, improving the information. However, often these respective obligations of producers are linked to the amount of reportedly placed on the market, meaning that producers are most likely to underestimate rather than overestimate what they have produced. From the analysis done in ORAMA, we evaluated the current reporting requirements versus the information needs. For example, the misreporting information content, as I mentioned before, can be hampered from the harvesting to the publication, as the methodology is quite different from member state to member state. In addition, composition information, there's no composition information out there. That it has member states are not required to report on this. This is what I mean. The UrbanMine platform, I don't know if how many of you have knowledge on this. It was created under the ProSum project, and this was the first attempt to compile data in a harmonized way. This information is provided, we can also find information provided by research, country studies, or some projects as well as eco-design studies. But with the exception of the ProSum project, the information is, as I mentioned before, is scattered and unharmonized. And therefore it's very difficult to transfer it to the RMIS. In addition, we need to improve the understanding of how much can be recovered from the UrbanMine by having realistic information. On online free riding constitutes as well a great issue since they do not register. Therefore, they impose an unfair cost on other producers and retailers, given the fact that they don't undertake the take-back systems, which make compliant companies less competitive and result in an overestimate of WEEE collection rates. In addition to EPR regulations, they don't define clearly how to deal with online sellers. And according to the OECD, online free riding accounts to between 5 to 10% of all sales. In addition, there's inconsistencies of the definition of what is used electronic equipment and what is waste electronic equipment in relation to the export of them. And the reporting harmonization in the collection and methodology applied on reporting of waste electronic equipment under the WEEE directive now since August last year changed from 10 to 6, so a harmonized methodology needs to be in place. This slide provides an overview of collected EEE in percentage from waste generated. By waste generated, we define it to the total weight of discarded products, meaning waste, as a result of the consumption in a given reporting year. This is prior to any activity, collection, preparation for reuse, treatment, recovery, which includes recycling and export. Waste arising from this waste can be arising from private, business, or industrial sector. This histogram showcases how relevant is the gap of data that we currently have, especially in the complementary flows. It is important to improve the collection. You see here clearly, this is the green bars correspond to what is officially collected and reported, and the red bars is what the information that we currently don't have. This is our main data gap. And in order to improve this data gap, in the ORAMA project, we created some 3 case studies. 3 case studies that one was focusing on measuring the scavenging levels of components, tackling what the complementary flows, and the second one creating protocols in order to update the officially collected and reported flow, which made it was made to improve data reporting practices, data sets of flows and composition, and the PV panels, improve PV panels data, which my colleague Christine will be presenting later on in this webinar. In the case of measuring scavenging of components, it aims at providing 2 best practices to improve that data collection by means of a market survey and a sampling protocol. In the case of the updated officially collected in the UrbanMine platform, the same methodology and protocols of harmonization made in Prosum were implemented. Among the tools used and developed in the ORAMA project, we have like the development of 2 sampling protocols, which I will be explaining a little bit shortly, as well as a market survey. In order to harmonize the information, we use the unique classification, which was also used in the Prosum project. And we also, since we updated the officially collected and reported flow, we use the UrbanMine platform. For those who don't know the UrbanMine platform, it is an online platform that developed in Prosum and displays all available data on products put on the market, stocks, composition, and waste flows for electronic equipment, vehicles, and batteries for all EU 28 member states, plus Switzerland and Norway. The data includes those elements and materials found to be of high abundance in these wastes. This include mainly base metals, precious metals, and those listed in the critical raw materials. In addition, there's some information on glass, plastic that can also be provided in here. The data for batteries and EEE and vehicles are presented normally from 2000 to 2020. And provides information, as I mentioned, on the number and type of products placed on the market, in stock, and generated. In addition, compositions, and as well as collection amounts, estimates of the unaccounted flows. In order to update the collected and reported flow for EU for member states for the year 2016, methodology, as I mentioned before, and protocols developed in Prosum were implemented and improved, and reported flows done, and we use the information from Eurostat, and we form key figures and national statistics for Europe in 2016. These calculations were made according to the 6 collection categories from the recast WEEE directive, and the split factors were applied in order to convert the EU 10 into 6. And vice versa. You can do this vice versa. The split factors are based on Prosum and WEEE generated data per UNUKI and are calculated per country, per collection category, and per year. As a result of this case study, the collected flow was calculated and compared to the volume of WEEE generated, resulting in this histogram. And as mentioned before in the previous histogram, the red bars represent the information, the data gap that we don't know. And the green bars represent what is officially collected and reported. And having this type of estimations can help provide member states and policymakers an idea of the quantity of WEEE that is unaccounted, understand the impact of other complementary flows, such as waste bin, exports, metal scrap, scavenging, among others, where we don't know where the products are, and help improve the formal collection of this equipment. So what can we have with this information? We can analyze the different types of flows of the products, and as we can see in this Sankey of the total amount, it was determined that WEEE generation accounts of 10.3 kilotons, and around 3.8 million tons is documented as, which represents 38%. And 62% is on unknown whereabouts. This is that we don't know what are the different flows of this. These are unofficial waste flows. For example, this can be scavenged. This can be go to the waste bin, but this information is information that we don't have, and is quite significant given the potential amount of secondary raw materials that could be available if properly monitored and collected, and as well as treated. And this slide is mainly to illustrate in the amount of secondary raw materials that is currently unaccounted for. This is a Sankey for gold, silver, palladium, and platinum, and you can see that the amount is quite significant. And as a second case study, we have we did as analysis of the scavenging practices. This is a practice that can be observed in many member states. In Europe, and not only in developing countries. And fridges that are collected without compressors, or TVs missing the copper coil beneath the casing, are some examples of what scavenged e-waste constitutes. And in order to improve this, we developed 2 sampling protocols and a market survey. The market survey was developed and used to measure the scavenging practices. And this market survey was based on the WEEE recycling economics, which was in a collaboration with UNU and ERA. And the market survey allows different PROs and recycling facilities to provide information on scavenging practices in the areas where they operate. This survey allows treatment facilities to provide information in a harmonized manner, and covers key products and components from different collection categories. This form that was developed, it can be accessed via online using Google Forms, and harness information in Excel or CSV files. In addition, as I mentioned before, 2 sampling protocols were developed. One, the extended sampling protocol, which you can see down here, and the simplified sampling protocol. Using this sampling protocols, we can record scavenging flows, calculating the flows and the products as well as the component, and it allows recycling companies, OEMs, and logistics and treatment facilities to account what is being scavenged. And we also design a little protocol in order to harmonize the information. And as a result, as the analysis done in ORAMA in regards to feasibility and resources needed, we also analyzed the bottlenecks in the systems, and the key recommendations and suggestions of tools to reduce these bottlenecks were developed. When adopting and enforcing policies, it is quite important that we amend what the definitions of what is waste electronic equipment, what is used electronic equipment, in order to assure that what is being exported is not waste. And the knowledge of unaccounted flows such as WEEE being scavenged in and metal scrap waste bin could be improved, and in doing so allow quantifications and mapping the composition flows of waste electronic equipment, and therefore provide valuable insights on recovery rates per member states and an overview of secondary raw materials in the urban mine. Monitoring should play as well an important role in order to guarantee proper, standardized, and harmonized data collection and reporting information across member states. This could be achieved by performing country studies in a form of standardized sampling campaigns or via service collection segregation points and treatment facilities in order to quantify what is the final recovery rates of secondary raw materials of WEEE in member states. Member states should have a monitoring, like a standardized monitoring guideline of the treatment facilities to ensure proper treatment of fractions that is done in an environmental sound manner. And in addition, should secure yearly funds to promote a standardized reporting mechanism. This could be done within the UrbanMine platform or the RMIS that will guarantee member states report information in a harmonized manner, making information comparable and allowing mapping of secondary raw materials in the UrbanMine. Make information accessible to stakeholders and to the public, and improve the quality of information overall. And as conclusion and key messages, after evaluating, there is a substantial urban mine. Triple E products are constantly changing depending on the needs of the consumer. Periodic update of composition data is very challenging. Reporting of unknown whereabouts needs to be improved, and informed decisions for policy making must be based on solid data. If we do not know the whereabouts of materials or the magnitude of the EU urban mine, or what is coming and like what is being imported and exported, we cannot move to a more circular material material flows. Well, I wish to thank you for your attention, and now I am pleased to hand over to my colleague, Christine.
Okay, so yeah.
Yeah, continue.
I hope it will work. And it seems not to work. Can you see my screen?
I see. Yeah, put this. Click it. Yes, yeah. Perfect.
Okay, now. Okay. Yes, thank you, Michelle, for the introduction, and also welcome from my side. And yes, I want now to speak specifically about PV panels. And since Michelle already introduced the project and our general work plan, how we did the different work packages, I can now focus a little bit on details more, which might be interesting. Okay, so what can you expect from the next 30 minutes? I will explain why we focused on PV panels in this project. I will show you, as Michelle said, the results of the data analysis we did at the beginning of the project. And then I will introduce the recommendations and tools we developed. So first of all, why have a specific look on PV panels? PV panels are still an emerging technology, and due to the transformation of the energy systems, and you can see that the so far installed capacities in the different member states differ a lot from each other. So you can see that Germany is the country with the most installations. So we here have the data from energy statistics. So it's the net maximum electrical capacity in megawatt. But you can also see that the installed capacities are increasing more or less each year still. And I suppose in future they further will. Okay, so we have an overview of the technologies because PV panel is not PV panel. We have the ones of the first generation, which are crystalline silicon PV panels. Then we had the second generation, the thin film. There you can already see that different semiconductor materials are used, like cadmium telluride, gallium arsenide, and the ones with indium and gallium. And there's also the so-called third generation, which are the more emerging technologies still, like organic PV or dye-synthesized PV. And all these types of PV panels need different raw materials. So we see that a PV panel contains a lot of different materials. Of course, the frame and the front and the back layers, they have a quite big share, mass share of the PV panels, but we have also contact tracks made of silver. And not to forget, there is the so-called balance of system, which includes the inverter, the mounting system, cabling, and so on. And of course, all these PV panels will once become waste and are a potential secondary raw material mine, let's say. So why PV panels? Yeah, from a critical raw materials point of view, indium and gallium are specifically interesting, and of course, from environmental point of view, it's all, and especially also silver that is contained. When we have a look at data concerning the recycling and the recovery rate, which I took from the Eurostat WEEE statistics, we can see that all member states that so far have reported separate data for PV panels meet the targets of the WEEE directive. So from this point of view, we could say, okay, everything is fine. It's WEEE directive compliant. But when we think about what do we really know, we don't know a lot. So we don't know which materials exactly are recycled, which are not, and so on. We also cannot see from this data what is the share of the different technologies in the total PV panel waste stream and so on. Of course, PV panels were already in focus of the PROSUM project and are included in the data of the Urban Mine platform. But until now, since you can only get the data on the level of the collection of the categories of the it is included in the data for large equipment. Then you can have on the component level, you can see data. So there is a differentiation between some PV panel technologies, but you cannot just sum up this data to know everything about the flows that we have, because it's only components, and you would have to add other components that are included in there to get the whole flow. Also, in the PROSUM project, since PV panels were one product among various products. It was not worked on it that detailed, and some assumptions were made that maybe should be revised. So that's why we decided to really have a very, very detailed look at data for PV panels. So what was the were the main findings of the analysis part of the project? We analyzed a lot of statistics, literature, and projects, and we found that many projects that deal with like developing recycling technologies and so on, they are no data projects, and they don't provide a lot of data like composition data or flow data or something similar. There were some WEEE data projects, but these don't focus on PV panels. We found some papers and also some reports of industry associations that contain really valuable information that can be used. And but nevertheless, from all this, we concluded a lot of data problems, let's say, and gaps, and we wanted to make some recommendations and develop tools so that in future these gaps can be closed. So we had a case study on PV panels. Michelle already mentioned this. And in this case study, we had a special look at the put on the market data. So from 3 different statistics we checked, the energy statistics, production and trade statistics, and the WEEE statistics. And together with the energy statistics, we had a closer look at the conversion factors so that we can convert data from power to weight. Also, we had a look at waste collected, so the WEEE statistics, but also waste generated. So what is when we do a theoretical calculation, and therefore we need the lifetime distribution. And last but not least, we had a look at composition data, available composition data, and I wanted to find out, is there already a best case or not? Okay, so I showed you in my first slide the installed capacities in megawatt, and now is the question, what does that mean in tons? Because when we talk about stocks and flows, we need to know how many tons do we have. Also to like plan treatment capacities and so on. So of course, first of all, the first idea is to have a look at the WEEE statistics. But when you have a look into it, then you see that only since 2015 and only a few countries reported put on the market data. And this is because on the one hand, PV panel was only is in the scope of the WEEE directive since 2012. And also the reporting of PV panels is voluntary, since they are part of the large equipment category and are included in there. Unfortunately, we can use a little bit this data, but it's not complete. Then one could use the production and trade statistics as it was done for other electrical and electronic equipment in the PROSM project. But the problem here is that we do not have a category that fits. So we have one that is called photosensitive semiconductor devices, including photovoltaic cells. And we also see that there are contained photovoltaic cells, whether or not assembled in modules or made up into panels. So maybe we have double counting, maybe we have some things in there that are not made for photovoltaic panels, so other semiconductor applications. So we cannot use this data. So that brings us to the energy statistics. And here we have the Eurostat energy statistics, and from this we can calculate. First of all, we have to calculate the differences between the different years, because we have total installed capacities and not annual installed capacities. But this is maybe not equal to the put on the market, because we also have de-installations, and then we maybe do underestimate the put on the market. And then we have to use power to weight conversion to calculate the weight. So it's more or less suited. And we then also have from the International Energy Agency, they do publish data on yearly new installed capacities, which is already better, but still we have to use power to weight conversion. And none of these statistics does distinguish into different PV panel technology types. We have to get this data from other reports and so on, and we do not have this per member states. Often you have only for certain years a worldwide share of all the different technology types, so you cannot see if maybe the share of the different types is different in Spain than in Germany. Okay, so now we come to the question, what does it mean in tons? First of all, we calculated it from the Eurostat energy statistics. We used a certain power to weight ratio, and so for the year 2016, and a power to weight ratio of 80 tons. In the years before, it was higher, but here we assume from literature 80 tons, and got these results. We also did this with data from the statistics from International Energy Association, and you can see that they are quite similar. And then we compared it to the already reported data under the Eurostat WEEE statistics. And here you can now see that in some cases the reported the amounts reported under the WEEE statistic is lower than what we calculated from the energy statistics, and we have one case, France, where it's higher. But it's, I mean, the range, let's say, is more or less the same. It gets different when we come to the waste. And this I want to show now. Here, I did the following. We have on the website of the European Commission a WEEE calculation tool in order to calculate WEEE generated. So that means, Michelle already said, that is the WEEE that is supposed to become waste and should be collected. So in this, in the case of this WEEE calculation tool, I had to add data for the years 2015 and 2016 since they were not yet included. And I took 3 different sources for this, but it doesn't matter which one I take. The results for waste generated in 2016 are the same, because the amount of PV panels installed in the years 2015 and 16 does not influence what becomes waste in 2016 due to the long lifetime. Next to this, there was a study published by ORAMA, belonging to International Energy Agency, and they calculated 2 scenarios for the WEEE generated. It's the regular loss scenario and the early loss scenario. Early loss means that due to some failure or whatever already in the first year, panels become waste. And these 2 scenarios showed very different results. And we can see that the regular loss scenario shows lower values than what we calculated with the recalculation tool, and the early loss scenario shows much higher amounts in different countries. So, and then I thought, okay, since we now have some officially reported data in the WEEE statistics, let's compare it with this. And now we can see that in all countries, these values are lower. So now the question is, do the regenerated tools and scenarios overestimate the regenerated? So do they have wrong assumptions for the lifetime distribution, or is the officially reported are the officially reported amounts not complete? And we already showed these results in June in a workshop for the project. And there's one stakeholder said that he thinks that officially reported data is underestimated because a lot of PV panels do not enter the official collection schemes. So there is more waste, but it's not in the official reporting because it goes to scrap dealers or whatever. So we have here also unaccounted flows. Okay, let's come back to composition data. I showed you this already in the beginning, and yeah, we searched a lot of papers and reports to find yeah, a best case for the composition. And yeah, I can say that we didn't find it, and also a special, but what we found is that a special challenge is that over the time the share of different component materials and elements contained changes, and one example is silver. So when you model stocks and flows, you have to consider this. You cannot just take whatever one composition and assume that over the years it's the same. You really have to see from year to year what was the composition, and this data is not available. Okay, so yeah, from our point of view, some statistics should be changed, and different stakeholders like producers, like treatment facilities, researchers should be yeah, encouraged to provide better data. So first of all, I'd like to come to the recommendations we did for the statistics and industry associations. So the energy statistics, what would be nice to have is really installed capacity per year, and not only the cumulative capacities, and also to have a distinction into the different PV technology types. But I already spoke to some people working on energy statistics, and he said it's quite unlikely that energy statistics will be revised with that focus. Then we have the WEEE statistics. I'd like to go a bit into detail because here we have the situation that the producers are already obliged to report photovoltaic panels separately to the national registers. But then national registers, they aggregate data from producers and send it to the member states. And the member states report to the European Commission and Eurostat, and they follow the Commission decision 2005/369. And here, this still is based on the first WEEE directive, and it's only that in a guidance document from Eurostat, it's written to please report PV panels as a subcategory on a voluntary basis. So the revision of this Commission decision is ongoing, as far as I know, and I suppose it's quite likely that in future we'll have a mandatory reporting for PV panels. Okay, so hopefully we will there get better data soon. And then We have the production and trade statistics. So here, from our point of view, it's necessary really to define new Protocom and CN codes so that we have data for PV panels that, on the one hand, do not imply double counting, and on the other hand, no other applications. And also, what would be very useful is a distinction into the PV panel types. Then I already said that we have a lot of valuable data. I found a lot of valuable data from the from different industry associations and research communities. Also, reports that are published regularly, and we wrote a wish list concerning information that would be really helpful if they were included. So it's still a task of mine to contact these associations and discuss if they think that this is possible. So it's like to have more detailed data on the power to weight ratios, for example. Or what I didn't mention yet is a share of building integrated PV panels. We just don't know a lot about this, but we need to know if we want to know which type of PV panels becomes waste when. So, okay. And then we developed 4 different tools. One is the UNU classification. I said in the beginning that the UNU key classification used in Prosum was not very elaborated, and we improved this now a lot. And in the tool, we provide the description how to use this classification. Then as a second tool, we have a data collection protocol that helps to make a sound description of data. We then have a sampling protocol that is mainly developed for treatment facilities so that they also can collect data, valuable data needed. And we also developed a survey on data availability. So I want now still to shortly introduce this. And yes, the first one is the UNU key classification. So what we did is our key, so UNU key classification separates all the electrical and electronic equipment into 45 keys, one of them being PV panels. And we did some subkeys. So we, on the first level, we distinguished between PV panels that stand alone, like on fields or whatever, then those integrated in roofs, I wanted to mention also, then those integrated in buildings, then portable, which is upcoming, and we always have one here for unspecified. So, and then on the next level, we distinguished these 4 types into all the different known PV panel technologies. Yes, and then we come to the component and the material level. So here we really develop now codes that allow to describe the composition of PV panels exactly. And we could, for example, for the casing, which is the frame, we could use already existing codes. But then what we did new is a PV panel layer component group, a photovoltaic cell component group, contact tracks, and so on. And also, yes, on material level, we, for example, had to add some materials that are specifically used for PV panels. So, yes, this is it's the same. It's the photovoltaic cell, and here you can have the different layers that can be contained, and some examples for materials and so on. So that is a description on different levels, and you then really at the end, what you can not see now is then the next stage would be to describe it on an element level. Yes, and with this, I want to show you shortly an example found when you look into the literature, you really find unharmonized data. For example, this one, I want to emphasize that it's really a good paper, although I'm now using it as a bad example for the composition, but it's really worth reading. So the question was, how can we use this data for the Urban Mind platform? And first of all, the question is, what is the unit? Mass, okay, but per what? And then you see, okay, we have here PV panel size. We have a total weight kilogram per square meter. And then we come to the result, okay, it's all values are in kilogram and refer to a mass of 7.1 kilograms. So it's really, you really have to be careful with the data to use it correctly. And when we use this for the Urban Mind platform, we then start to, okay, what type of material components do we have? For example, here is glass. Okay, the glass is the front layer. So we have a line in our table. So photovoltaic panel, and then we have component group PV panel layer. It's the front layer and it's glass, but we don't, so it's the material type glass, but we don't know the exact type of glass and we don't know the elements contained. Also, for example, here we have encapsulant. We can assume what the material of the encapsulant is, but we don't know for sure. So we have here the PV panel layer, we have backsheet, and we don't have any further information. Also here, for example, we have the junction box, cables, and strips weight together. So we now don't know exactly what of this is still part of the PV panel, what is the balance of system. We cannot proper work with such data for the Urban Mind platform. So yes, in order to really have in future data that is helpful, it would be good to use this tool that describes how to use the UNU classification. Next one is the data collection protocol. I make this quite short. This helps really to describe the data you have correctly. For example, for what exactly is your information? Is it for put on the market? Is it for the stock? Is it concerning composition? Is it for a product? Is it composition of waste? So with these codes, when you use them, you can really harmonize your data, and it's then always very clear what the data exactly describes. Also, the unit of measurement, I already mentioned it. We here, for example, also have for the lifetime distribution different models, and then you can say, okay, I have a Y-booler, I have a bathtub, or whatever. We can also here say with the module scope, the frame is included or is not included. So you can really, when you use such a data collection protocol, you can describe the data very properly. The next one is sampling protocol, because we don't know a lot about the PV panels becoming waste, and it would be really, really nice if treatment facilities could use it. And here, for example, you make product description, and then you can, like, for example, store information about the manufacturing year or the mass, or whatever, different things. Also, have you accompanying parts? Have you missing parts? So the scavenging question. And we have developed also an Excel, so it's like ready to use. Last one is the survey. We developed a very detailed survey in order to find out what data is available, how is it collected, when is it aggregated, and so on. Due to time and budget restrictions, we had no time really to bring this to an end still. And but the interviews are ongoing, and interview partners still wanted. So if you think that you would like to talk with us about PV panels, please contact me. Okay, here is again an overview. I will not show it more in detail now, but it summarizes all the thoughts more or less that we had. Some topics we did not even have the time to elaborate, like, for example, what about the reuse of PV panels? How does this influence the collection, so the waste generated, and so on? There are so many questions still open. Yeah, so now when you have questions, you can ask, and but also we would like to hear your feedback. So, for example, at producers and researchers, so it's not only now valid the questions for PV panels, also for WEEE, can you imagine to use the UNU key classification when you publish data, or the treatment plans? Can you imagine to use the sampling protocols? And so on. So yes, we are very interested in your views so that it does not stay an academic exercise, but really is brought to practice. Okay, so I can now hand over again to Michelle. Michelle, are you there?
Yes, thank you, Christine, for your excellent presentation. I don't know if you would like to provide some feedback right now, or we can go ahead and time for questions now. Just a reminder, please be sure to type in the questions, and so we can have a look at it and proceed to discuss. So do you have any feedback regarding the questions that we're asking right now? No, otherwise we will proceed with the questions. And Tony, he was asking regarding from the investment point of view, which are the main focus of that needed for those, and which are the chances to attract those from the private sector for both topics? And which are the main recommendations for the private sector that wish to operate in this sector? So from the industry point of view, it is very important to have knowledge of critical raw materials, recyclers as well, preprocessors, material producers, smelters, manufacturers of triple E, new market entrants, producers as well. They are very interested in knowing a little bit of the material flows and to overcome future needs in materials as well. But I don't know if I answered your questions. Tony, you can speak. Unmute your microphone, and if I.
Yeah, hello. It was quite nice to follow this excellent webinar, and as well as others that we have had. And my interest is mainly on the private sector investment possibilities. So I want to know if you can kind of find out the focal points which need those investments in order to improve the system and to really in order to improve the system, because there seems to be a lot of information gaps. So I understand that one recommendation for the industry is really reliable reporting.
Yes,
that should be established.
Yes, collaboration between producers and the industry should be made in order to get a knowledge of secondary raw material potential, because as I mentioned before, new products are arising, and new technologies and new compositions as well. So in order to avoid potential shortcomings, it would be very useful if producers and the industry per se would provide information in order to avoid these shortcomings.
So the industry needs some kind of raising their awareness of these problems and about the importance of reliable data and comprehensive data collection and sharing.
Yes, Yes, and member states should ensure that this information that the producers provide to them, they're kept confidential, because this is one of the main issues that we are currently facing. Like, for example, in the Proson project, we face a lot that they're very reluctant in sharing this type of information, due to competitivity. And so member states, Eurostat should provide a platform and to secure this information when provided. I don't know, Christine, do you want to
Yeah, it's I think really in the case of PV panels, there is still a lot of clearing up, let's say, necessary, because I mean, it's still a new product. The waste flows are not that big so far, so it's like no one is moving. I mean, the PV panels that become already waste, they go, we don't know which way, maybe together with construction and demolition waste, or just to scrap dealers. And from my point of view, it's really, since we have producer responsibility, it's really a task for producers to do this clearing up, and try to find out how, although there is a long lifetime of these panels, they can enter then the correct waste stream and the correct treatment. And yes, I think also we had these recommendations that that the industry associations of the producers publish more data. And the thing is that still we don't know if maybe the data is already there and it's just not published, or if it's really still a big effort to come to this data. So there are, concerning PV panels, there are still a lot of questions. And I think the member states, I think it's their responsibility, now that we see that waste generated and waste collected has such a big gap. I think it's their responsibility really to find out where are all the waste PV panels, or don't we have them, or are they sold as a used product to another member state, so that they cannot become waste in the member states where they were put on the market. So I also see here a big responsibility of the member states. Yeah.
Are there any other questions or feedback you would like to provide to us? Well, it looks like we've covered all our questions. Christine, is there anything else you wanted to cover before we wrap up?
No, everything clear from my side.
Okay. So we wish to thank you for participating in our webinar. We appreciate you being here, and thank you again for joining us today. If you wish to have more information regarding the content of this presentation, or more information on the monitoring of material flows of other waste groups, please feel free to check out the ORAMA webpage and join us in our final event as well on the 22nd of November during the Raw Material Week. And we will be as well presenting some presentations in the WEEE Expo on the 14th and 15th of November in Frankfurt. So if you have further questions, or you want to approach us, we welcome you and to contact us. In addition, as I mentioned before, all presentations, webinar recordings, protocols, guidelines, and furthermore can be found in our ORAMA webpage. Oh, sorry. And thank you once more. And we would like to ask you to provide us with feedback, comments of the webinars. And here's our contact information if you wish to approach us individually. So thank you very much for your time. And I hope you enjoy our webinar. And have a good afternoon.
Bye.